the presentation we're making is going to be a dialogue, that's why the two of us are here, about an important issue that has really taken the last 25 years to grow, and that is how it related to me personally. As I said, I'm blind. I'm a member of the college here, having the privilege of being received as Bank of Ireland Visiting Research Fellow, and the project I bring to the college is the development of a reference model for accessibility. And I have a little bit of background as to why I got involved in that subject, but let me hold that for a moment and let Hans-Jurgen introduce himself. Hans-Jurgen?
Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Hans-Jurgen Kugler. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm working with the company Kugler Mark and Company. We're a change management company. We help other companies change. And generally, the tenet is change to the better. Sort of underlying, there's something that I'd like to link back to, 200th anniversary of Darwin. There is this competitive gene theory, which finally neuroscience has actually put to rest. It's rubbish. It was proposed by people who did not do any genetic research at all. Actually, we are much better and we prefer collaboration. When you have when you make an invention, when you have an insight, the amount of endorphins that the brain secretes is high. But when you then actually tell others about that, and they actually see what you've been seeing, the elation that you get out of that is much, much higher. We have survived, although we're not saber-toothed, although we don't have big claws, we've survived as groups, not as individuals. So most management in organizations, which is okay for the industrialization part, based on Taylor's principles, divide and conquer, or divide everything and mechanically put it up, and it only goes up a hierarchical line where there's competition between the various branches. That is a model of the past. That is what we believe. And so, if you like, that's the background of me being involved in Design for All. And maybe Carul should actually introduce what that now actually is as a concept.
Well, Design for All is a term that evolved by the European Institute for Design and Disability about 12 years ago. Incidentally, it was founded here in this college, but it's now executive is based in Sweden and Italy, and partly in Germany as well. And of course has retained a base here in Ireland. In the course of 15 years of disability changes, of awareness of the political issues around disability in Ireland, starting with the Commission for the Status of People with Disabilities, and then the development of equality measures, and finally our Disability Act, which took 4 horrendous years of political campaigning to fight its way into existence. And is still so inefficient that I, as a blind person, do not qualify as a disabled person under the Disability Act, which is a dreadful anomaly, which I can't go into now, but we can refer to that later in the working group. All of these issues led me to realize that for all that I'm a designer, myself originally an architect, that now as a blind person, I am less able to function than I was when I could see. And what is the reason for that? I went through the social process from being an inspector of national monuments, expected to make decisions on behalf of the nation with regard to our historic buildings, to when I went blind in 1982, being told to sit in the corner, mind my manners, and here's a cup of tea, which was very embarrassing, you can imagine. And purely because I couldn't see, not because anything had happened in my mind, not because I knew less than I knew 3 years before, but because I couldn't see. That changed in the late 80s to empowerment of people with disabilities and expecting them to at least do something, even if it did mean they were going to crawl around the place and had to be helped by everybody. And there was still a pathetic image around the idea of ability of a person. To the current thinking which in about the last 2 or 3 years has changed radically to the expectation that people with disabilities can function, can do something, can independently think, and can earn a living. Now, there are exceptions to all of these things because people are still embedded in society which keeps them on the charitable plane. Our challenge here is to explore those issues. Why is that happening? Why are people in that state? And in my own research, this brought me to the conclusion that we're looking at the whole issue the wrong way around. That brought me to say that the fact that I'm blind doesn't stop me functioning personally. It stops me interacting with you because everything's visual. Our presentation here today is all visual. We're using a visual screen to project the image to you. I can't see it, but the speakers have been briefed to make sure they're speaking in words about what's on the screen, and that's fine. I can work with that. But it still is not very efficient. I'm not getting as good an idea as you're getting from the visuals just by the descriptive words. This brought me to say, how are we going to resolve this? And there's a stunning silence out there in society to that question. Your challenge is to address it here. It brought me right up against the question of systems. And I had the good fortune to meet Jurgen socially in a musical environment, and he got talking about what he wanted to do. I was complaining about my ideas, and we realized that the two could work together, that systems have the answer to breaking through on this. So,
yeah, it's actually,
how would you take that up?
It's actually moving from, I'm fiddling with this thing here. I'm not.
The cursor keys rather than the spacebar to progress.
The cursor keys, yeah. Well, this is
It's on paused.
Technology, eh?
technology. Yeah, technology gets in the way. That's the point.
You need to press space once to bring it into the pause mode, and now use the cursor
Okay.
to progressing.
Well, you've seen that flashing by a few times, but the main thing is, what Carul's experience is about as a person, as an individual, being regarded as disabled. And as a fringe group, well, social services will help them. But really, the expectation is eventually that's a group that gets smaller as technology advances or society advances to a higher level. Actually, the fact is that this notion of disability as a medical disability is only one facet. Exclusion from total participation in society, that's really what it is. Mm-hmm. So turning that around is making all the functions of society